Okay, now I've got that other tower built, we can do a little bit of decoration. Just sort of smarten up the look of this gatehouse. So, put some slabs there. Which, I think that'll just look instantly better there on its own. Can put some chiseled stone here where the floor is. It's not going to see it from the inside. And then maybe even if you want to put it there. And that looks quite nice. I like that. Chiseled stone, yeah, if you have access to it, because obviously if you're on an earlier version, you're not going to have it for a while yet. You can't really overuse it. It's one of those things you got to use in moderation. Let me disable autosave. There we go. Okay. I keep forgetting to do that, to disable autosave. It's annoying. I'm sure you guys find it annoying too, and I apologise for that. I'll smarten up these doorways a bit. And torch. Yeah. Okay. So that's more or less the walls there. It's taken 20 minutes of actual filming time to get that done. So let's move on to the next bit, which is the keep. Now the keep in a castle is essentially that massive tower that they have in the middle of it. Now because of the shape of this build, I'm going to not put it in the centre of the actual build itself, but on the edge. But it's still going to have that sort of commanding position over the actual castle that keeps usually have. Because that's one of the massive features about keeps, is that they did have that sort of commanding look over the castle. They were, you know, when you look at castles and your movies and all that, you've got the walls that look imposing, but then you've got the massive towers. Yeah, it's the same idea with this, really. So I'm gonna want to reflect that. I want it to be a sort of commanding structure that sort of overlooks the entire village. I mean, it more or less at this height overlooks it all, but I want it to be quite tall. So, oh no, how high is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd say as a safety net build up to 9 blocks. If you're doing this bit by bit. If not, then do it to the sort of height you're satisfied with. There's no, like I said, it's like with the walls, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It all comes down to personal preference and how you want it to look in the end. Now, as a rule, I normally do roofs 3 blocks high. So at this point is where I'm going to have the floor, so I just want to break up the recurring pattern of the brick with something else. And another thing that goes really well is actual smooth stone. Now I am doing a build, it's actually on this world. I've actually not done a lot on it in a while, but I might actually go, start working on it again soon. But it's got some pretty impressive walls, and yeah, maybe I can show you that sort of design. I mean, if not, you can always just look at my desert theme build, because it's big sandstone walls, and sandstone on its own is quite a boring looking block. There's not really a lot interesting about it. So what I did is I broke up the pattern by putting smooth stone in at a regular interval. Big words. I don't even know what it means. JK, I know what it means, I think. So yeah. That's certainly one thing I would always suggest doing. Just try and avoid a recurring sort of block. That's why I say you should always use at least 3 blocks. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that in this series, but I usually say it to my friends when they say, Sam, I want to build a castle, but I'm not sure how to do it. I'll usually say use at least 3 different kinds of block throughout the build, just to keep it looking interesting. Which is why I'm a big fan of doing the cobblestone base. Also, when I do houses, I'm quite a big fan of using the all you know, logs in a corner with a one layer of cobblestone around the bottom and wood on top of that. Yeah, you've seen how I do these little bits, so I'll cut this bit of the video out. Okay, so now I've got all that sorted out. I actually brought up another level, so we got 3 levels, and then I'm going to put the turret on top. We're going to do it a bit differently to how I've done it over there. I'm actually going to build the floor out of half blocks. See why in a moment. Just move that up a little. So that was right the way it was before. Okay, so we can then bring this out like so. So we've actually got a big space on the top to build. There's the interesting bit. Gonna sort of ring around the walls like so, and we're gonna make it look a little bit more structurally secure by placing blocks underneath it, like that one. Like that. So we can still see that little bit of decoration, but it looks a lot more structurally secure, a lot more sound. Sound as $1 a pound. Well, that's one little turret design you could go for granations. Suppose we want to do something a bit different because we've got a bit of a different turret design, haven't we? We'll make these look a bit more tall. We could do in the corners, because that stops you falling out. Oops. Let's put some little fences and top them with the torch, and then just torch that, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a good amount of fences to stack for making your little flag design. So that's more or less a keep tower. I mean, it's a fairly small interior space. Like I said, I was working with what I had because this little bit I built it on, it was kind of already a sort of perfect sort of shape for having a keep tower on. So yeah, if you're building this your own way, I'd recommend you build it a bit bigger than that. Maybe instead of like 5 blocks on the inside, maybe 7. So you could fit some beds on the inside, maybe even go for 9, have a pretty big tower. So with castles, bigger is usually better because they look more imposing. Like I said, it's a small village town, so we don't want a huge castle. Right, so that's that bit done. Now I want to work on this little bit here. Now, I said earlier, I mentioned what this is. Now, in medieval castles, what they'd usually have is they'd have their sort of lords, or normally knights, believe it or not. It's normally knights that looked over castles, that usually reported back to a lord. But for argument's sake, it's a knight that lives here. lords live elsewhere. Somewhere else in this world. Going off topic, and I'm stuck. So yeah, so it's a knight that lives here, and he'd have sort of everything he needs inside this castle, and that includes sort of workers. He'd have basically peasants. What it'd be? Well, yeah, it'd be peasants that sort of cook his food, clean his house. It's kind of like slaves, but not slaves, as it were. Peasants, they did their work voluntarily. It's like they said, yes, we'll do it. But they were kind of in a position where they couldn't turn it down because they were so poor. It's like what I've said with Chavy peasant. Like, I just need to get by to feed me family. A lot of peasants, that was their social situation. A lot of the stuff they worked for was usually just to feed themselves and the family. So, history lesson aside, that's basically what this is. It's basically peasants' accommodation, because, you know, they'd be expected to do all the sort of manual work inside the castle. It makes sense that they live actually on the castle's grounds. Let's just light it up a bit better. Now, the whole thing behind this building is I wanted it to look a bit cheap, which is why I've used cobblestone. The only real masonry is where the walls are, and just natural stone. This is part of the mountain. So that's really the theme behind that. Now, if you want to go and make this a bit more homely looking, you could add in some partitions using wood for walls, or maybe cobblestone, maybe even something like this. So it looks like that the peasants, while it's more of a cheap way of making a wall, that they kind of want it to stay there. You know, they want their own personal space. You know, maybe the lords have authorised this and said, yes, you are in a relatively poor situation, and I think you deserve a bit of privacy every now and again. And the peasants are just all, thank you, mate. You don't know how much this means to me. Yep. Okay, maybe I'll have to leave the roof kind of exposed on that one. They're gonna niggle me a bit, but could just do this, sort of. So that way it wouldn't annoy me. So yeah, that's the peasants' accommodation. Now, if you don't want to do peasants' accommodation, you can maybe make it a stable, like if you're doing PC Minecraft, because you have horses. You can maybe make that way you keep your horses or your donkeys. Or maybe it'll be an inside, like, farm. Maybe you're going to have a plot of land there and some pigs there, or maybe cows. So yeah, that's the basics of the castle. This has been a pretty long video. In total, I've done over half hour of filming with this. So, yeah, it's been pretty big so far. Now, next time, we're going to actually work on the manor house. This is going to be one of the more focal points of sort of life inside the castle. So, I hope you'll join me then for when we do that. In the meantime, what you can do to help support the series is drop a comment, tell me how you feel about these videos, bit of feedback, be greatly appreciated. Also, hitting like motivates me brilliantly, adding it to favourites, another great help. And if you really want to see some more of these, hit that subscribe button. You'll be notified whenever a new one's uploaded. So, this is Sam Marsden, signing out. Happy building, people.